Greetings, crusty barbarian wannabes and man of war enthusiasts. My name is Lucius, and today's episode of War HQ will be looking at this line of miniatures that are displayed before you from Maceface Miniatures, who are an Australian company, dear to my heart, right at my homeland. They come from Melbourne, Australia, and what they are producing here is miniatures, 10mm fantasy miniatures for Warmaster, and specifically for the Norse range and the Chaos range, and I'll go into that a little bit more as we look at the individual figures. Maceface themselves produce fantasy, sci-fi, and historical miniatures, but have that touch of classic, bold 90s appeal, which many of us love, particularly if you're a little bit long in the tooth like me and been around the traps a little bit too long. But what we'll be doing here, and a disclaimer before we begin, is that these were printed on my new Frozen Sonic Mini 4K. So just so you know what tools I'm using here to achieve these results, and so that you may be able to achieve similar results. And if you have printed miniatures from Maceface, I'd love to hear from you down below and tell me how you went and what you experienced. I will do the same through this video, and I'll also give you some hints on printing, a few little tips, and I'll show you these beautiful miniatures in all of their finery. But for now, if you would like to subscribe to this channel, we would greatly appreciate it. Every subscription we get here really helps the channel to grow, I guess. And as we do grow, we'll get more of this sort of cool content and have a bit more finance to be able to keep producing and keep showing you awesome stuff. So for now, let's get started. Okay, so Maceface have only been around a little while. What we have here is the first units that they brought out, which are their Dark Norse Huskarl champions. So obviously these are like your Chaos Warrior equivalents if you're going to use them for a Chaos army, or your Norse Huskarls. You know, Norse Huskarls, like their Viking sort of themed that they're on, the elite warriors of Jarls and kings within the Viking age. So that's what these are trying to capture, with that spirit of fantasy as well, mixed with a little bit of Norse culture and get-up, which is quite a nice little touch and look. Now, with these, you get 4 different command strips. Now, 2 of the command strips have symbols on their banners, and you can see those before you. They're the 2 with the symbols, and you also get the 2 command strips without the symbols as well. So, and then you also get 6 unique strips of Huskarl champions, which here's a couple up the back here that I just picked out at random. These are really nice. Hey, like they are like what you'd call an exaggerated scale, I guess. So they're a little bit bigger than reality, but I guess that's trying to capture this, this brutish Huskarl exterior that we're trying to go for here, and it looks great. It really looks good. It prints really well. These here have no supports. I wasn't sure about it when I first did it, but I printed them with no supports, and they printed beautifully. Didn't have any troubles with these Norse Huskarl champions. I really love these ones. As you'll notice also, they have a few less models in the actual line of troops. Warmaster is one of those things with infantry. You can either have like between 4 to 6 troops per base, you know what I mean, like as a frontage, and then 2 lines of those. But these have 4, and I think it really differentiates them as the elite warriors that they are. They're taking up that space with the extra armor and just a bit more brutish than their smaller brethren, I guess. But they're your Dark Norse Huskarl champions. Okay, the second product line that was produced by Maceface was the Dark Norse Marauding Bondsman. So these are your lesser, sort of like medium to light infantry, fairly unarmored with shields. They look really good. As you can see, the differentiation between the Huskarls and these is, they're a little bit smaller and there's a little bit more per base. So you go back to your 5 to 6 per base with these guys, which makes them look really cool. There is a unique thing with this too, is there's 2 different variants you get with this stuff. So you get either the Dark Norse variant, which is going more on the Norse theme, obviously, and the Dark Legion variants of all of these figures as well. So that's the more traditional Warhammer Chaos kind of look. And really, it gives so much option that you can produce with this particular force as well. Like particularly with these Marauding Bondsmen, they can stand in for pretty much just most troops within this game, which is great. But you do get 4 command strips, both in the Dark Norse variant and the Dark Legion variant. I've only printed the Norse stuff here because I am sort of more focusing on that Norse-themed army. And you also get 8 strips, like unique strips of marauding bondsmen with just warrior strips. So it's like these two up the back here. They're just chosen at random, but there's 8 variants of that in the Dark Norse and the Dark Legion again. So maximum variation and very good value for money with these. I like the way the miniatures have been put in here. Some of them are like sort of standing, not shoulder to shoulder, but sort of behind and around each other, and that looks really cool as well. Some really amazing details that Maceface have managed to achieve with this range. I particularly like this one. But those are our marauding bondsmen. Okay, the last unit type that Maceface have produced, which only just came out this week actually, is the Dark Norse Marauding Horseman. Now these are quite cool. There's a few dynamic poses here. Unlike the other two, which were unsupported, these ones do have some supports, and you can use the supported files. I didn't have many problems with this one. The only figures I had a issue with is the rearing horseman, like this guy at the front here. I think the first one I printed, I should have buffed it up a little bit with just some of the supports I used on the legs, and his little hoofs didn't print, but no big deal. Fixed it by the second one and no dramas at all. But these Dark Marauding Horsemen, obviously your light, medium cavalry, can be used for Chaos and Norse, which are quite cool. And like the one before with the Marauders, the Infantry Marauders, these guys came in a Dark Norse and a Dark Legion variant as well. The ones before you are the Dark Norse, as I said, that's what I'm kind of concentrating on. But you do have that option too. If you want to go like more of a traditional Chaos kind of look for your army, then you could use the Dark Legion variants. Very generously with this line, you have 6 variants of command strips. So the command strips sort of have usually a musician and a banner person, and then like a sort of a champion stand as well. So you've got 6 stands of those, 3 different banners, 3 different champions, which is quite cool. I like it a lot actually. And then you have 8 individual strips of the Marauding Horsemen themselves, and many different poses. And again, in the 2 different variants of Dark Norse and Dark Legion. So it's fairly endless what you can create with this force. But these are the Marauding Horsemen. So currently these ranges you can get at macefaceminiatures.com, and you're able to buy the STLs and download them from that site if you wish. Now currently they are retailing for $15 per type. So you've got the Huskarls here with the variations that I've gone through. $15 you get all those STLs. You have the Marauders here, Bondsmen, $15 for all of those STLs, and then also the Marauding Horsemen, $15 for all those STLs, which I think is quite a bargain for the amount of work and the amount of detail that is in these figures. I think they really look amazing. And I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people, particularly with that kind of 90s-esque Viking style. Looks really cool. Reminds me of a lot of the RPG artwork and stuff from the day, and and you get that sort of Conan vibe from it too, which is quite cool. I really like that about it. So if you are looking to purchase them, that's where you can go, and I will leave a link down below. Now, they are planning on expanding this range. I have talked to the owner of the company, Matthias, and he's got to give me a few scoops of some potential ideas of what will be coming up in the future. But I believe I won't give any of those away here, but you can expect more from this Norse Chaos range. And I think I'm eagerly anticipating it anyway, because this is going to be my next army for Warmaster. So I'll be collecting regardless. And if they keep coming out at this standard, then yeah, I'm a permanent fan for sure. And I look forward to the future releases that they do as a company as well. Like with all 10mm miniatures, these ones are quite easy to print. As I stated before, the infantry models come without supports. You don't need to actually support them. They've been designed in a way which it works beautifully on resin printers to just flow. And I had very, very few issues with those. A little bit of curl on the corners, but that's quite common with my machine. Sometimes the Z-axis goes out. I've talked about that in a previous video. I haven't taken that tape away from my Frozen Sonic Mini 4K at the bottom, which some people recommend that you do. I just find that if you can press hard enough and screw down hard enough with the vat, then you can usually achieve the results you want. But these will be glued onto other bases when I base them for Warmaster, so it's not really an issue at all. You won't even see that. I did slice one in half with my metal scraper when I was taking it off, but that you you can fit so many on a build plate when they're built like this because they don't really protrude anywhere as well, which is another really fine aspect of them, is that you can fit so many on a build plate that you can, I think what you're seeing before you, well, I sort of printed them, one at a time, I guess, when they were released. So like they were just one build plate per miniature type, but I never had to do a reprint of anything. So that really, good economy, I guess, of printing time and also resin use as well. Like with all these kind of printings, Z-axis is everything. You've heard a few things that I've said before. It really applies to this as well. I think the 10mm scale, it's so important that they're pre-based like this. And if producers keep bringing them out pre-based, it just makes it so much easier. Like things like this, if they were individual models and you had to then print them all out and try and scrape them off the build plate without damaging them would be really difficult. And I love the way that these producers are just bringing the stand out as it is. It's definitely the superior way to go. And it saves a lot of heartache and headache trying to fish around little 10mm miniatures inside a vat and stuff. It's quite difficult to do at times. So you'll see I'm pretty much, with what we've got here, it was fairly flawless. The only real issue I had was a little bit of fold up on some of the infantry that were on the far ends of my printer, and just the rearing horses of the two champion models. I lost the hooves on one of the prints, but very easily rectified by just putting a few more supports in there. But otherwise, the supports work quite well on the horses as well. So that is my start, I guess, to this particular range. It's really inspired me to want to collect this Norse/Chaos range, and I will use it for both. I think I'm going to use it for both. Like I love the Chaos Force and I love the Norse Force, so it's best of both worlds. They easily just beautifully tie in, and I love the way that they've created the two variants, so you can choose between your traditional fantasy and more of a Norse vibe to where you're going with. But for now, my name is Lucius. This is War HQ. You're you. Thanks for staying tuned. If you've made it to this end of this video, you're a complete and utter legend. If you are even more legendary, you might consider becoming a Patreon so we can make more of this kind of content. If you like 3D modeling and you like this sort of printing content, please let me know down below too, because it's something we've been getting into a little bit at the moment. I will be going into more strategy and game kind of stuff, which is what this channel normally does, about Warmaster in the future. And yeah, but for now, thank you very much.